17 goals, 13 assists, contributing to nearly 70% of his side's total goals as they sit 8 points clear at the top of the league with a game in hand. And get this, we're only in December. Ladies and gentlemen, we are watching one of the best players to ever play on these shores at the absolute peak of his powers. Mo Salah is untouchable. He's unguardable. He's unbeatable. He's in what I call a flow state. Flow state for me is almost when you're in full focus of every single action. You're in full control. There's no fear of mistakes. You're not overthinking each action. You're just playing freely, and everything you touch just works out. You often see this with the best players of all time, where they're great over a long period of time. Of course, longevity is a form of greatness, but there is stretches or a period of their career where they just look on a different level to everybody else. And that's what we're seeing from Mohamed Salah right now. Honestly, every single time this guy gets on the ball, you get the impression something is going to happen. Liverpool are going to score. Liverpool are going to get a chance. He's going to finish off. He's going to pass the Jota. Everything he touches at the moment makes you think goal. And I'm sorry, there haven't been too many players in this league that have given me that feeling every single time they get on it. He's unstoppable at the moment, man. Liverpool 5, West Ham 0. 5-star Liverpool performance. Who's stopping them, man? Who's stopping this team? Every single challenge that gets put in front of them, they have an answer for it. Every single defender you throw at Salah, he has an answer for it. Every single setup you throw at Arne Slot, he has an answer for it. And today, Liverpool were at their irresistible best, man. I mean, it really hurts me watching this play out as a United fan. Not even just because it's Liverpool, right? But over the years, City have been so dominant in the league. And this is not a slight at City, what I'm about to say, but they've been untouchable. They've hit a level in the league that I don't think any team ever has. They've hit 100 points. They've done quadruples. They've won the treble. They've scored 100 goals in the league so many times. They're incredible. But when I watched them play, I never really I knew it was amazing football, but it really wasn't the kind of football that I felt envious of. And that's not a slight at them, it's just personal taste here. It was never football that I was like, oh, this is amazing, but I wish my team was playing it as well too. Like, I would love to beat City at a different game. But when I watch Liverpool, right, and this isn't me saying they're as good as the City teams that I've won before them. This is just a matter of taste. I watch Liverpool, and yes, they're damn good, but they play football the way I wish my team played football. I wish my team played like this Liverpool team did. They're fun. They're direct. They're fearless. They throw balls into the box. They hit you on counterattacks. They're fast from the break. They press you from the front. They have superstars around the pitch. They have enjoyable, likable players. Their manager seems like an amazing guy. Like, honestly, I envy them for Arne Slot. Wow. Let's talk about a few of these performers, right? The action obviously started off with Luis Diaz, who has just been a revelation of late in this false 9 position. Because over the last few years, we've seen Luis Diaz play on the left. He actually started the season out there as well too, but I feel like I say this 6 times a video at this point. Give credit to Arne Slot for reinventing Luis Diaz into a player that can play down the middle. We saw it in the Champions League at first against Leverkusen when he scored a hat-trick against them, against the Real Madrid. You've seen it in the league as well too. And today is just the latest example of Luis Diaz being reinvented and almost like allowed to flourish in this new role. He doesn't overthink it on the wing anymore. He's a lot closer to goal. His finishing has really taken a step forward this season. That goal that he scores today, I'm not sure if that's a goal that he scores last season or even a goal that he scores the year before. It's a confident, ruthless finish from Luis Diaz. And that's just kind of like what his game encapsulates now. Yes, he still has that element of flair to him. And one thing I always love about Luis Diaz is he's a tireless worker. And even at times last season when Liverpool fans were suggesting he might need to move on, he's not good enough, we need an Anthony Gordon per se. I keep saying this. Every single team on the planet would love a Luis Diaz. That's not to say he's the best player on the planet, but every team would find a role for him. Because when you're that tenacious and you run your socks off as much as Luis Diaz does and you're as direct as he is, I'm sorry, that's a positive for teams. That's a positive. And then when you add the end product like he is this year, I think he's already tied his best season ever statistically for Liverpool. Either tied or beaten it. Or if he hasn't beaten it, he's going to. But when you add that production to already the great general play that he provides, the great work rate that he provides, you're looking at an excellent footballer, man. An excellent one. And Liverpool are just spoiled of attacking riches because, and Arne Slot has really done a great job of it. He has this rotation between Nunez, Diaz, Gakpo, and Jota where like, you can almost predict it to be fair. Like, you know, if Diaz and Gakpo start this game, the next game, Diaz is out, Gakpo is playing up front of Nunez. Then the next game, Gakpo's out, Nunez is playing up front with Diaz. And it's like a cycle, and it's a cycle. And the only constant there is Mohamed Salah on the right. But they just have so many weapons. The other day, Gakpo was the hero. Today, Diaz and Jota when he comes off the bench, and he took his finish so well right at the end. They have so much firepower, and it's why I think they're going to win the league because they almost seem to have an answer at whatever defense you throw at them. And I think going forward after this season, a lot of teams are going to copy the blueprint of Liverpool. because they've shown that a way to be successful in this league is having not just great depth in attack, but different profiles as well too. So that, you know, the way I kind of look at it, like this is gonna sound cringe a little, but it's like, would you guys ever play Pokemon when you were young? And you know your opposition, if they got, I don't know, a fire type, you're gonna throw a water type at them. Or if they got a grass type, you're gonna throw a fire type at them. It's similar to this, right? Because they know like, okay, if you're gonna play a deep block, then maybe it calls for a different player than if we're playing a team that's gonna play a lot higher up, and then I don't know, you want Nunez kind of running in behind. Similar to like every single team that you kind of throw at them, they seem to have an answer almost designed around that team. And I think that's absolutely brilliant. I think it's going to be something that next season in particular, a lot of teams are going to look to mimic, especially like the top sides. Because when I look at the likes of Arsenal, they don't have the firepower that Liverpool do. And it's very difficult to keep pace with a side that have as many weapons in attack like these guys do. United, they used to do this all the time. They used to have 4 center forwards, whether it was Cole, York, Solskjaer, Sheringham, whether it was Berbatov, Tevez, Ronaldo, Rooney, whether it was even at one point Van Persie, Rooney, Welbeck, Chicharito, and they're all different center forwards. They're all different kinds of attackers. Liverpool are very similar in that sense. Very, very similar in that sense. And it makes them such an unpredictable and tough team to beat because it almost feels like they have an answer to everything. And even when they don't, they have one of the best game breakers at fullback I've ever seen in my life in Trent. And there's a lot of talk about Trent as of late this week because there's rumors coming out of Spain, most notably Marca, that Trent has made up his mind and he wants to leave Liverpool in the summer on a free and join Real Madrid. And look, Marca, I think they're hit and miss, honestly. When it comes to Real Madrid, typically they are very, very good, but I think it's a little too early to kind of like say, oh, he's gone. And if you look at his celebration after the goal today, what was it? This, it almost kind of indicates like, block out all the noise. It's all just noise. But it's very interesting with Trent, right? First of all, the guy is so unique. I've seen brilliant attacking fullbacks, like amazing. And there's some that do stuff that he doesn't. Like I've seen fullbacks, for example, that pick up the ball and can weave past 6 guys. That's not really Trent's game. So he's unique in terms of his passing range from a fullback. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen a fullback that is able to play the passes in behind, swerved, driven, grass cutter. He has almost every single ball in his arsenal, which is crazy for a fullback. Like there was one that he plays towards the end of the first half to Salah that like it's like just barely above the ground. It's like swerving in to out, lands directly in Salah's path just to run to goal with it. I've never seen a fullback that can almost play any kind of pass he wants. Any pass that he can imagine, he can play it. And it makes it very, very difficult to replace a guy like that. In fact, forget about difficult. In my opinion, it's impossible. It's impossible to find a like-for-like replacement of Trent or even like similar quality. There's other great fullbacks, and if you get someone else, you have to change the way you kind of create and operate, which you could still be successful, right? Teams are successful without Trent. He's not the only right back on the planet, but in terms of the quality that he possesses and the quality he offers Liverpool, there isn't a single fullback on the planet that can offer what Trent does. None. If you lose Trent, you got to find a new way of playing. You got to change the way you play because no one can come in and be a like-for-like replacement with him. But here's one thing with Trent, right? And he was amazing today. He's been amazing for the last few weeks, right? The passes that he plays, man. Oh my goodness gracious. It's just a work of art. But I spoke to Trent last year with Bleacher Report. I had an interview with him. Honestly, enjoyed it. Very, very thoughtful guy. Like in terms of like, you can tell he really thinks about everything. Like he's on it. But he said this one thing last year that really stuck with me because I kind of asked him about how much he values legacy and like what he really kind of wants to be remembered for when his career is over. And he told me he just really wants to win. I remember it very clearly. He told me, and you can see the interview, it's still on Bleacher Report's Twitter. I might retweet it tonight. But he said to me, he said, when my career is done, I want to be able to kind of be sat with my kids or whatever, looking back at like books of all the trophies I've won and tell my kids like, yeah, I won this trophy in this city and I won this trophy in this city. And hopefully I would have won like 3 of each. So the way he kind of depicted it to me and my understanding really came in the fact that Trent just wants to win. Trent is just obsessed with winning. He wants to win, and he wants to win as much as he can. And it makes the interest in Real Madrid just as much as the Real Madrid interest in him. It makes sense. There is no better club when it comes to winning silverware than Real Madrid. Even the most diehard Liverpool fan will admit that. That's the pinnacle of the sport. But I know he's obviously got his own people. He's not going to watch this, but if I could speak to Trent, and if I was a Liverpool fan, I would urge him to consider the project at hand right now. Because yes, Real Madrid, you are going to win. There's no doubt about it. You're going to win Champions Leagues. You're going to win leagues. You're going to be one of the most decorated fullbacks of all time if you go there right now. But at Liverpool, you also have the chance to win. This is not the Liverpool of Steven Gerrard's era. This is not the Liverpool of Luis Suarez's era. This is a Liverpool team that, and I know he's been in the situation in 1920 where it looked like Liverpool were set to dominate, and it never ended up being the case. And in fact, it probably came down to ownership not being ruthless enough when it came to transfers. So he might look at the situation now and say, well, what's the difference? Who's to say if we win it this year, we're going to be aggressive and try and win it the next year? But I do think if they manage to extend Salah, Van Dijk, and Trent, that's a sign of intent from Liverpool. That's a sign that they are serious about it this time. Because a team that isn't serious about being successful over anything else doesn't extend Van Dijk and Salah at their current age. They don't. They'll throw you some bullshit about sustainability and long-term project. But if you're extending two 30-year-olds for the money that they want, that tells me you're ready to win. Winning is your biggest priority. And if I'm Trent, I look at that and say, look, I probably will never win as much with Liverpool as I do with Real Madrid. Again, Liverpool fans, say what you want. It's the reality. But as a Scouser who's come from the academy, who's next up in terms of the armband, I think winning with Liverpool, and he said it himself too, it means more for him. It would mean more if you won half the silverware at Liverpool that you would at Real Madrid. And that, look, you still have to win. I'm not saying go to Liverpool and you never win anything again. Obviously not. But if Liverpool can continue being a successful team and winning leagues and challenging for Champions Leagues, I'm sorry, I feel like for Trent, I don't want to say he owes it to the city, but I do think that would be the best course of action for him. Now, I'm not sure about signing on bonus that Real Madrid wants to give him. I'm not sure about any of that. But at Real Madrid, let's be real, you're going to go down as one of the greatest right backs of all time because you are playing for Real Madrid. Real Madrid and Barcelona juice is crazy. You could go down as one of the most iconic fullbacks ever, and you probably should anyways, but at Real Madrid and Barca, like I said, the juice is crazy. But at Liverpool, if you're captaining that team to silverware as a local kid, you're sitting in the highest echelon of Liverpool footballers. You're talking about the Kenny Dalglish's, you're talking about the Steven Gerrards, you're talking about what Mohamed Salah is doing at the moment as well too. That's the upper echelon that Trent sits at if he wins as a boyhood Scouser and as the captain. You're touching immortality in terms of football, in terms of footballing sense. So Liverpool right now, I don't want to say the words champions and then another word that starts with an E. If you know, you know. I said that about Arsenal a few seasons ago, and it didn't end up great. But at the moment, I can't see a team that stops them. The focus that they have, the consistency that they display, the force of nature that they have in attack that just does not stop scoring and assisting. I don't see a team beating these guys, man. I don't see a team beating them. But what I will say is that the team at this current moment, on December 29th, 7:40 at the time of recording, the team mathematically best equipped to challenge them is not Manchester City. It's not Arsenal. It's not Chelsea. It's Nottingham Forest. This was not meant to happen. This is not what the script suggested. I'm sorry. Hold up. Nottingham Forest are in second. You guys do know, right? If Nottingham Forest make the top 4 this year, that's the greatest story in English football since Leicester. Leicester's a bigger accomplishment because they won it. But Nottingham Forest making the Champions League, excuse me, not Europe, the Champions League is the biggest accomplishment in England since Leicester winning the league. That would be ridiculous. That would be absolutely ridiculous. And Nottingham Forest, I think everyone knows they've had an amazing season. Like, we see them winning and getting results every single week. And like, we've known they're in and around those positions. But it's only really when you take a step back and just actually deep what the league table is saying. And they're second. And I know there's other teams with games in hands, but they're basically on the same amount of points as Arsenal and Chelsea. It's like a handful of points between them. That's their level halfway through the season. I'm sorry. We really need to sit down and deep what we're talking about. I almost want to make a video on their own. Like, someone needs to find me a Nottingham Forest fan that does content that I can bring on here and we can actually properly talk, because I think everyone recognizes what they've done, but people really aren't actually like understanding it. I don't think people are even watching all of their games. We're just seeing their results. Nottingham Forest won. They're still up there. When are they going to drop off? But guys, one thing about the Premier League, right? It's a league where pattern is very important. Like, you can quickly pick up patterns about the Prem. And one of them that over the past few years, for me, is pretty consistent. The table around December, January time, it doesn't often end up changing too much. Now, I've seen exceptions in terms of, well, Arsenal, they were at one point clear in 22-23, and they fumbled and they lost the league. And I remember Leicester, 2 years in a row, they were in top 4 basically 99% of the season, and they threw it away. But for the most part, what the table looks like around the New Year period, it typically doesn't change too much. Now, that would suggest that we're about to see Nottingham Forest finish in the top 4. And I'm not going to come out here and say, it's over, they're doing it. It's a long second half of the season, and we're really going to see what this squad and Nuno Espirito Santo are made of. But wow, this is one of the greatest accomplishments I've seen in the Prem over the last few years. It's insane what Nuno is doing. This is a team that, me personally, I had them going down. I thought they were going to get relegated this year. Like, I looked at the last few years, they were struggling down there. They were going band for band with Luton last year. I think the year before, was it Leeds they were really competing with for that final position. Like, they've had a few close calls the last few years for the money that they've spent. But wow, this season they've been untouchable. They have one of the strongest defenses in the entire Premier League. When you look at the Cells, you look at the Ola Ainas, the Milinkovic's, the Murillos. That back four is incredible. And then you look throughout their team. Elliot Anderson has to be considered one of the best signings this season. He's been a revelation for Forest. Chris Wood is having like a second spring. What's that expression when a player almost like reinvents themselves towards the end of it? That's Chris Wood at the moment. He's going crazy. You look at Hudson-Odoi, you look at Elanga, you look at Yates. They have so many weapons as well too. But for me, the guy who deserves so much credit is Nuno Espirito Santo, because this is a guy that was a laughing stock by the time he left Spurs. People were saying the job was too big. It was too big for him. He should never have gotten that job, relegation manager. But I hope no one forgot about the job he did at Wolves the first go around, right? And I know Wolves were heavily backed in the transfer window. This was at the point when Jorge Mendes was throwing them deals left, right, and center. But guys, he took Wolves from the championship to the Europa League semifinals. Weren't they in the semifinal against Sevilla? Or was it against Inter? It was one of those teams. No, I think they went to the quarterfinals of the Europa League and lost to Sevilla, barely. He had Wolves like a consistent top 8 team. There was a point where Arsenal, when they were in their really banter era, Wolves were considered a better team than them, and that was under Nuno Espirito Santo. So for him now to go through what he did at Spurs, lick his wounds, come back to a team in Forest who last year were threatened with relegation, save them almost pretty comfortably towards the end, and then go into this season having Forest in and around those European positions. It's one of the best coaching jobs we've seen this year. And one thing I want to say, right, because I'm already seeing a lot of people say Forest's a brilliant story, but we've seen Leicester a few years ago. We know how that ended. Let's see. Man City's going to go on their run. Aston Villa are going to be... That might all be true. This is not me saying Forest are going out. They're going to basically fall out. But I also heard that same narrative the last 2 seasons with Newcastle in 22-23 and with Aston Villa last year in 23-24. In 22-23, all we heard was, Liverpool will get it together at some point. Newcastle aren't making the top 4. They're going to fall off. It's going to be just like Leicester. Lo and behold, they were playing Champions League football a year later. Similar to last season with Aston Villa. Spurs will get their stuff together, man. They're the Big 6 team. Villa, Unai Emery. Lo and behold, a year later, Villa were playing in the Champions League. So I'm not saying it's going to be third time lucky with Forest. I'm not saying that at all. It's still a long season. But trust me, it is very possible that this time next year, Nottingham Forest are playing against the big guys in Europe, man. It's 1,000% possible. And I urge people, start watching their games more. It's not a fluke that this is happening. This is an Everton team they played today that over the last 3 games took points off Chelsea, they took points off Manchester City, and they took points off Arsenal. And 2 of those teams they kept a clean sheet against, Arsenal and Chelsea. They play against Nottingham Forest. Nah, we got you guys. Forest are a crazy story, man. And I'm definitely going to be paying a lot more attention. I've caught a few of their games this year, right? They're impressive. They're very impressive. And then finally, we ended off with a big round of applause to Manchester City. I mean, it's about damn time. 1 win in 13. The curse is over. The run is over. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a good run. Manchester City have won a football game. Manchester City have won a football game, ladies and gentlemen. Fairs. It wasn't easy, by the way, huh? Leicester, they had Man City on ropes a few times. They did. But ultimately, Leicester have a massive keeper injury. Their main guy, what's his name? Hermansen or something like that. What's the Leicester goalkeeper's name? Yeah, Mads Hermansen, who, to be fair, in the few games he did play this season, he's played most of them. He's had some big moments. For me, the one that sticks out is the game against Arsenal, where they lost, but he was like Neuer reincarnated for 1 game. But obviously, he's going through an injury problem at the moment. They went for Danny Ward. His own fans were booing him. He made a huge mistake against Wolves. Now today, they've gone for Jakub Stolarczyk. I hope I'm saying that name. And poor guy, man, because again, the first goal, I'm sorry, you got to be doing better there. And it must be so frustrating for a Leicester fan at the moment because Leicester played well in that first half. They had their chances. Vardy probably should have bagged 1 or 2 today, man, honestly. But it's very difficult to win games in this league when A, your striker's not finishing regularly, and B, your goalkeeper is making mistakes every single game. It's very difficult to win games, both at the bottom and the top. Every position matters, but there's some positions that are almost like non-negotiables. Like you need them to be at least doing a shift. And for me, center forward and goalkeeper, more often than not, if those 2 aren't performing, you are going to have problems in this league. Trust me, I'm a United fan. I would know that more than anyone at the moment. But the first goal goes to Savinho, who breaks this duck of, no goals, no assists in like 17, 18 games in the Prem this year. Which, honestly, I'll be real, I think is a little overplayed because you look at his age, right? And you look at the situation he's kind of found himself in at City and you look at the experience he has. Not much. It was never going to be easy for Savinho. And I think too many times now we're too quick to call players flops just because of their numbers, right? Like, that's not to say numbers aren't important, but I think when you look at Savinho's performances this season, they haven't been bad. He's played better for me than players who have more goals and assists than him this year. Like, yes, the production has to be there to kind of add to it, but to act like Savinho has just been a scrub this year, I think has been harsh. And that's why I've continued saying, for me, Doku and him have to be starting on the wings for Manchester City. But Savinho grabs his first goal off a deflection from, like I said, a really poor bit of keeping from Leicester's keeper. And then who was it? Cristiano Ronaldo. He said he said goals, they're like the ketchup because you keep hitting them, and then they all come out at once. But I think GA is like the ketchup because he got his first goal, gets his first assist in the second half, and it's that man on the spot, Erling Haaland, to put away the goal. And look, he needed that because the last few games in this run, Haaland has been, he's come up shorter than Mini-Me, man. Honestly, I said the other day, I feel like his powers got zapped. But today, Erling Haaland might watch my channel, Erling Haaland might watch my channel. Aha. Not really. But damn, did you see this guy's dribbling today? This guy was weaving in and out like 2010-11 Messi. There was one run in the first half where he picked it up, goes through two Leicester defenders, then weaves out, weaves back in, plays a pass in behind to Kevin De Bruyne. I was watching Haaland today like, okay, Erling. I wasn't familiar. I didn't know you had this in your locker. Fair enough. Thank you. This is what I've been asking for. This is what we've all been asking for. To all these people saying, oh, he's being stifled by the system. What can you do when the system's not working? That's what I call X Factor. Today, Haaland, I'm very, very impressed. I'm very, very impressed. I haven't seen dribbling like that from him since Dortmund. That's the best general play I've seen from Haaland in years. So give him credit. And then he took his goal exceptionally well. That's the Haaland we know, the Haaland we love. But yeah, man, I want to give a big shout out as well, too, to James McAtee, who's been on the outside looking in this 1-win-13 run. And I've been of the opinion that, look, it can't get any worse than it currently is. Give the kid a shot. And if you believe the reports this week, he's being linked with moves away because he's just displeased with his playing time this season. And I hear him, bro. When I look at the way Gundogan and Bernardo are playing this season, you're telling me James McAtee can't do any better. And lo and behold, the Haaland goal comes through a brilliant piece of creativity, a brilliant bit of incision from James McAtee, sends through Savinho, ball on a plate to Haaland, goal. Play the kids, man. And then Pep's coming out saying, yeah, we all know his talent. I would be mad if I was him too. Acting like you don't have the power to play him more. I expect to see McAtee play a lot more. It's very difficult when you're kind of on the outside as much as he is, but it's easier said than done, but you got to take your chances when they fall to you. And I think today he's taking it. Give credit to City. Like I said, there were some scary moments. I think Vardy should have punished them at times. But also, I think the return to Kovacic was a big one for them. I think the team did look a little balanced today, more so than it has in the past few games. So hopefully for City, this is a turning point, right? Sometimes when you're in a bad run, all it takes is that one win to kind of clear the memories, get you back on track, and hopefully go on a run for them. Because I said it last video, I'm going to say it again, they're in a top 4 race. It's not guaranteed City make the top 4 this season. And when you look at how Nottingham Forest don't slip up, God, City could win every single game till the end of the season. If Forest keep doing what they're doing, it won't matter, man. So City, they got to go on a run now. Just like they went on this bad run, they have to go on one of those famous Manchester City runs that they always do. The title is out of sight, but to make top 4 this year, they got to make signings in January, which I think, if you believe the reports, is going to happen. But they got to start winning games. Today is a really good start for that. So, yeah, man, we'll see what happens. Today, busy day of Premier League. Obviously, Spurs drew. Bournemouth and Fulham going out to a 0-0 draw. Crystal Palace got a win against Southampton. You need to relegate these guys now. But tomorrow, another interesting day, man. Manchester United versus Newcastle. Aha, ha, ha, ha. We'll see you there.